One thing we teach at Meta at Facebook is that you learn through 3 different channels. One is experience, right? And we think about 70% of learning is just by doing it. You have to just do it. 20% is through exposure. And then 10% only is education. People spend way too much time in that education. It's because it's what's accessible to them, right? It's available to them. But in a sense, it's the easy thing to do. You're just sitting, you're a passive consumer of something. This is not experience. That 70% of learning is going to be just going out there and doing it. I think to do that, you do have to be okay and willing to fail. Hi, my name's Daniel. I recently left Meta, where I worked as an engineer and engineering leader for the past almost 17 years. Yeah, went to major in computer science at Carnegie Mellon. I graduated in 3 years and then started working in Silicon Valley. I was part of the very first growth team in 2008. I was one of the very first mobile engineers working on Android development in 2010. I got to lead the Instagram engineering growth team from 2013 through 2019. I was the manager for the VR Core UX team, which built software for the Questline headsets 2019 to 2021. And most recently in Korea, I was working on an internal startup that was focused on building something for the elderly population in Korea. I think it's always important, no matter what stage you're at, right, in your life or career, you always want to be thinking a bit ahead and having some sort of plan and purpose for yourself. I think to do that well, you need to introspect. I think for the first 20, 30 years of my life even, I lacked any internal motivation. It was all, okay, what did my parents want me to do? What does society expect from me? What do my peers want from me, right? What are they doing? Maybe I should just do what they're doing, right? I never really took the time to stop and really think, okay, what do I want? I was a sophomore in college and it was spring break and I was visiting my friend in Boston and he happened to be friends with Mark. He had asked me to, hey, can you help me launch the Facebook at your college? So I went to Carnegie Mellon. So in hindsight, this was 1 month after Facebook had launched. Yeah, I tried for a couple hours and said, hey, I got to get back to school, sorry. If I knew then what I knew now, I honestly would have probably dropped everything from college and just started working at contributing towards this product or building something that I thought could really change the world. But, I often jokingly refer to this as my $1 billion mistake. Honestly, at the time, like Silicon Valley startups, they didn't mean anything to me, really, right? So everything, even from, my college was, okay, join the big companies, get something stable, things like that. For me, having a stable job at a good tech company at the time, right? I thought that was success. Oh, I made it. Right. Eventually, after a few months of working, I really didn't feel any growth at all. One thing I've come to realize is I really love progress. I love growing, right? Developing myself. And not having that, I think, was missing something really important to me. And so, yeah, I just went ahead and interviewed. I think the more you do, stop and think and take the time to introspect, I think the more fulfilling your life will be, right? Because you can make decisions that are in line with, I think, your goals and motivations as a person. One moment that stands out is when actually I made the switch from the Facebook growth team to the mobile team. Again, to put it in context, at the time, the growth team, it felt like we were the rock stars of the company. User growth went from flat and plateauing, right? Let's say under 100 million users to, just in a very short period of time, accelerating, hockey stick growth way past 600 million users. And, I think also the growth team, because of the methodology, we could very clearly point to our impact. And that felt really good, right? It really did. At the same time, I knew that I was not doing my best work. And in hindsight, I think it's because as the team was growing, I was having less and less of an opportunity to, let's say, flex my non-engineering muscles, right? And I think most people would have looked at me switching teams at that moment as like, why are you leaving this team? But for me, I knew I needed to make a change. And so, yeah, I found the mobile team, which was, much smaller. And as one of just like 3 Android engineers, and by the way, like we had just brought Android development in-house. Believe it or not, before then, we had contracted some other company to build our Android app for us. That's how I think nascent the mobile market was at the time in early 2010. And so joining this very small team with all of a sudden complete control, and also, learning a new skill for me was really valuable. And just having that ability to, again, to influence from a product, the UI perspective, etc., what the Android app for Facebook looked like and how it performed and, what features we prioritized and all that. And just, again, because it was a small team and a new code base, we could just work so much quicker, right? That was really refreshing for me. The lessons I learned, if you need to make a switch, even if externally it might seem strange to others, or for whatever reason you're thinking, oh, career-wise, this is not a good change or whatever, it's probably still the right decision. You know, trust that instinct and trust your gut. And ultimately, like, you're going to do better work when you're happy, right? You're more engaged. That's when you do your best work in general. And so, yeah, you know, sometimes you just need to make a change, even if it doesn't make sense on the surface. Yeah, I think Korean work culture is that it feels very risk averse. Life and most things are on the spectrum of risk versus reward. There's no such thing as like a high reward, low risk thing, right? If there was, everyone would already be doing it. If you want to maximize, I think, your growth potential for, you know, outsized success, let's say, whether it's in your career or even for your company, I think you can't do that without taking a lot of risks. And to take risks, you have to be okay with failure. One thing we teach at Meta at Facebook is that you learn through 3 different channels. One is experience, right? And we think about 70% of learning is just by doing it. You have to just do it. 20% is through exposure. So maybe you're not doing it yourself, but a good friend, your manager, someone you know, they're doing it and you're right there alongside with them, right? You're getting that exposure to the problem, the domain, the decision-making process, right? And then 10% only is education. And that's, you know, reading books, listening to podcasts, watching videos, tutorials, etc. And quite frankly, I think people spend way too much time in that education. It's because it's what's accessible to them, right? It's available to them. But in a sense, it's the easy thing to do. You're just sitting, you're a passive consumer of something. I mean, I'd like to think I'm also giving you a bit of exposure through my examples and through what I'm sharing. But, you know, this is not experience. That 70% of learning is going to be just going out there and doing it. I think to do that, you do have to be okay and willing to fail. But I will also say myself personally, the times I've grown the most is when I tried something new. I wasn't very good at it. I failed at it. But then eventually, you know, I learned and became more successful in it. So I think it's valuable to think of your career as a series of like connected S-curves. So S-curves in general, right? At first, you're not being very impactful. You're not learning very much. Right? If you're going to map basically how much you're learning versus how much you're impacting things, it's very, very shallow, right? Then it accelerates very quickly. You're learning a lot, but you're also contributing a lot as well. And then it shallows out again, right? You're still contributing at a high level, but you're not learning yourself. You're not growing as much. First of all, if you switch too much, you're never going to enter that steep phase of learning, right? You're going to do yourself a disservice. But at the same time, if you stay in a role maybe too long, sure, you're having a lot of impact, but you're not growing yourself. And if your goal is to grow and develop as a person and have new experiences, you have to like try to chain these curves together and be in that steep part for as long as possible. That's the best way for you to basically learn and grow. If I had to give advice to everyone, it's 2 things. One, really take the time to understand what your personal values are and priorities are in life, and then make sure your decisions are aligned with those. If those are out of sync, I think you'll generally be unhappy. But if they're in sync, no matter what the outcome is, I think you can be pretty happy with how you've, you know, lived life. Yeah, I think the second one is, I really believe everyone can have a huge impact in the world, right? Whether it's through the company you're working with or the relationships you have with the people around you. And, you know, in particular, I'm biased. My background's in computer science and engineering, you know, and technology in particular. But I really believe technology has this outsized ability to have impact in the world. And therefore, you know, especially any one person working on anything from anywhere in the world, right now we're living in an age where you can make a product or make a change in a product and people all over the world can benefit from and use it. I really am a general optimist when it comes to technology and its ability to do good in the world. Yeah, I encourage everyone just to, you know, don't sell yourself short. Really, you know, dream about that impact that you can have on society and do whatever you can to achieve it. You just got to go out and do it. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity or for it to kind of fall in your lap, because that may never happen. But yeah, go, in a sense, like go out and create your own luck.